Let me tell you why you're here.
I've seen things.
Oh my god.
Whoa, yeah! You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Guaranteed to jack you up.
Yo, what is going on, my dudes? It's your host, LamarStaysWeird, coming to you once again with another podcast. As you can see, I am dressed up as the Grabber. I am going as this for Halloween. I am thrilled, and this is the other part of the mask that he wears in the film. I'm filming this on Halloween, right before I'm about to go out to the castle out in Tampa to go to a Halloween party and have some fun. I love this costume. It's great. But yes, we are talking about Blumhouse's Black Phone that came out in 2022. All right, so enough with the mask. I don't want it to muffle my sound or anything. So yes, that was a voiceover. It was a little weird. Whatever. It doesn't matter. If not, you guys have no idea who are watching the video. But if you are, thank you so much. And I really do appreciate you watching the video. Happy Halloween. I know it's a little late, but hey, we got Thanksgiving and then we have my favorite time of year, Christmas. So all that's coming up, and I really hope you guys enjoy all of your holidays. Anything you celebrate, by all means. I hope it's a good one. I hope it's great. I hope you and your family are happy, healthy, everything, the whole 9 yards. I wish it all for you. I very much wanted to talk about this movie. I mean, look at me. I think I look cool, man. Like, look how this looks. This outfit is pretty dope. I got it from Amazon. I wish I could say I put all this together. I got it from Amazon. The masks I got third party from Amazon. But yeah, I will include pictures on my next podcast from everything, give you a bit of an update, let you know how that party went and all that. You know, hopefully I'm still alive by that point, not missing any limbs or any other typical Florida man stuff happens. But yes, I'm going to assume I had a blast, and you will find out in the very next episode, because we will be talking about Hellraiser. Okay, I've been on an 80s binge of horror movies and I've been digging it. Hellraiser is definitely one of those. I watched that not too long ago and I fell in love with it. I watched it, I think, for the first time last year, the year before, fell in love with it. And now I am going to talk about it because the pictures and the episodes will kind of connect, because I am going as the Grabber from this movie, and my girlfriend is going as Pinhead, or the Cenobite from Hellraiser. So pictures will be included in that, which will be awesome. But to keep up to date and all that, social media link and all that stuff down below in the description. All right, but enough of that, because I don't have a whole lot of time. Let's get into this movie. So yes, this movie was produced by Blumhouse. Now, Blumhouse, they done a number of films. Okay, they have a sweet spot. They do some pretty awesome movies, they do some bad movies. Jason Blum, I mean, he hits the mark every now and then. It's really cool. This is one of those movies I thought was great. It has some pretty good themes in it. The acting all across, the child actors are great. Ethan Hawke in this movie, god, I want this dude to play more bad guys, dude. I am excited. There is going to be a sequel that I think comes out in 2025, so next year. I'm excited. I don't fully understand how that's going to work out, because I'm assuming he died in this one, and I know that's kind of spoilery right now. If you guys haven't seen it, sorry, but maybe not, because I mean, there's a sequel. So I got spoiled, I guess, because I thought he was dead, and I know there's going to be a sequel. So I'm like, okay, maybe something else, you know, like anthology or something. But he may be coming back, or who knows? It might be a fucking prequel of what's going on here. I don't really know, but I hope they're just rich in themes all over again, because this one, I think it had a really good theme. It touches on some stuff I think a lot of people can deal with. This can be a triggering episode. I want to say, you know, trigger warning for abuse, like physical abuse, emotional, verbal, like any of that. I want to go ahead and give a trigger warning for you guys. Now, this movie was directed by Scott Derrickson. Now, he did great. Him and Ethan Hawke, this is not their first time working together at all, because they both did the Sinister movies, and those were great. Or at least I remember, like, recently watched the first one. I think it dragged a little bit, but I was also kind of tired. I was watching it really late. There are definitely some scary moments, and Bagul is a very interesting entity, I guess I would say. The second one, I don't think I've seen. I want to say I might have, but I really don't remember it in the slightest. So I do got to get around to that one. But yes, he directed that movie as well. And he also did one of my like really up there, like MCU movies. He did Doctor Strange, the very first Doctor Strange movie. That was great. And then followed him with Sam Raimi. So I like that these horror directors got to direct Doctor Strange. I think they're probably the perfect genre of directors to really, pick from and keep that going with Doctor Strange. Because his world, super interesting. I'm ready for a sequel. And I think Sam Raimi is supposed to direct that one. That would be fucking rad. I love the second one. I know a lot of people didn't, and like that's a whole other thing, but it was very Sam Raimi coded, and I loved it. I thought it was great. There were so many homages to horror and just Sam Raimi's touch in general. So good. So honestly, if you guys haven't seen that, like, and you don't really care about the MCU, check those out. Those are honestly like good movies, interesting enough. And of course, this movie was backed by Blumhouse. A lot of you guys should know Blumhouse. They did so many fucking movies over the years. Like they got Five Nights at Freddy's, Freaky, Megan, the Insidious series, Upgrade, which we previously covered on this podcast. Fucking awesome movie right there. Paranormal Activity series, the Purge series, which also started off with Ethan Hawke as well. So Ethan Hawke's just been in and out of that, man. I love Ethan Hawke. He's cool. He's a really dope dude. His daughter is pretty awesome. His wife is pretty awesome. It's just awesome family that they got going on right there. Okay, that's just really cool. Now, this movie came out in 2022 on June 26th. So if you have that as a birthday, congratulations. You share it with a pretty awesome movie. This movie is pretty sick. In the beginning, when I first didn't fully understand this movie, I thought, man, this movie's cool. I love it, but it shouldn't work. But it does. There's things you could nitpick that are wrong with it. But rewatching it again, honestly, I feel like something clicked in my head and I just understood the movie a little bit better. I'm not really sure as to why, but I did pick up something I didn't really notice the first time, and it's like, wow. And I want to say this, you are not dumb if you don't understand a movie on your first watch. That's okay. Some people are just kind of wowed and it's like, you get all distracted with the flashiness and just you're into the movie and you're paying attention as much as you can. There is nothing wrong with that if you don't understand a movie. It doesn't mean you're dumb or anything like that. Don't let anybody discourage you from liking a movie or even not liking a movie because you didn't really understand it. Now, I think it's fine if you don't like a movie, but you also didn't understand it, and that could be a reason as to why you didn't like it. And I get it, to each their own. I think it's different if you go on bashing that movie, but it's like, okay, you didn't fully comprehend it, so like there's no reason to go on the offensive. Like you know what I mean? Like if you don't really understand something, maybe don't shit on it. Like I'm the same way. It's like, oh, if I didn't get it, it's not for me, but I'll look at the positives. Like that's what I will try to do. It's like, okay, there was cool things about it. I like this, and this, but I didn't get it. I didn't get the movie, but fuck it. And it's not a very long watch. Pretty decent pace. It's an hour and 43 minutes. Pacing of it is pretty well done. I like it. The movie takes place in the late 70s, so I think it's around 78, 79. So it has a really nice like feel and vibe to it. Pretty grounded. It's contained story. I think it's very well done. We focus on these kids, and I know I'm just going into a bit of the synopsis, but I want to go ahead and get into that. I mean, since I'm already started anyway, my mind's all over the place. I got a lot of plans today, a lot of stuff to do. So bear with me, but I hope you're enjoying it regardless. But yes, we're following some kids. So in this town, I believe it takes place in like Denver, there is this legend of this guy that goes around, the grabber, that goes around abducting kids and ends up murdering them, and obviously you just never see them again. So all of these kids, they're super familiar with all of the victims' names. Like they just know them by heart. Even people they've never hung out with or anything, their name, all because there's missing signs posted everywhere. It's just one of those things, and it's scary for them, and they still walk around, walk to school, from school, and they talk about him as if he's the boogeyman. And that happens to our main protagonist, Finney, who is a bit superstitious about it. Of course, he's scared about it. I mean, every kid has fears, dude. Even nowadays, like the biggest fear right now, of course, I would say is one, school shootings, and then two, being like sex trafficked or abducted. Those are like, I think the two biggest things that are fucking around with our youth nowadays. And the third one would probably be like drug use and shit like that. And that's messed up. And I know I'm not that old, but it's like, man, I didn't have to worry about that stuff too much when I was younger, and that might be like a privilege thing. I don't know. I never grew up in like the best of areas either, but I guess I was just I didn't pay attention that much like to all that stuff. I was just trying to be a kid. But nowadays that's just like kind of hard as worse as things gotten. It's fucking insane, dude. You hear about it everywhere. Like there's no escaping it. The world is more connected and disconnected at the same time than ever. So everybody knows everything that's like going on and also doesn't, which is weird. But yeah, it's a scary time, man. Check on your kids. Actually try to talk to them, or you have a friend's kids, or I don't know, niece, nephew, cousins, like anything like that. Check on them like, "Hey, like how are you doing?" Like anxiety level nowadays for kids is like through the fucking roof, and that's why a lot of things are the way they are, and things are a little off, and like mental health is something that really needs to be in check. So check on your people. But yeah, sorry I went on a tangent, but yes, our protagonist, he gets abducted and he has to find his way out because he doesn't want to be another victim. But things are different for him because there's a bit of a supernatural thing going on. I'll get more into that later. But yeah, that's pretty much the synopsis. Pretty straightforward. So if you haven't seen this movie, please check it out. It is a good watch. Ethan Hawke is great. I want to see him in more shit like this. I'm excited for the next one. I really can't wait to see what he dishes out. The look is creepy. I like how it just goes back to the, I don't know, we got a villain with just a typical name, the Grabber. I don't know. You don't really hear the blank anymore. You don't really get that. So I like that. I thought it was like a good touch, and it's just a regular dude, you know, like, it's just how it is. And the child stars of this movie, they did great. There's three of them that really stuck out. Obviously, you got the main protagonist, Finney, and then you have his sister, Gwen. She's great, hilarious, love her character as well. But there's another one I really love, and his name is Robin. And people cheered. I think I watched this in theaters twice, and people were cheering for like this kid. I love it. You love to see it. Like, God, good shit, man. And I'll go into that in a bit. All right, let's get back into some of the normal formula that I like to go. So this movie was made on a budget estimated around $18 million. And box office wise, dude, this thing made $161 million. Like a little over that. That's fucking rad. That's sick. Obviously, that's going to garner a sequel. Why wouldn't it? That's fantastic numbers. The ratings alone are actually pretty damn decent too. It's a decent watch. Now, I'm not trying to say like, oh, it's anything like amazing, but no, it's good. And it's just Ethan Hawke as a bad guy really stands out, and it's great. On IMDb, it's rated a 6.9 out of 10. On Letterboxd, it's ranked a 3.3 out of 5. I want to say, yeah, that's actually not bad. That's pretty fair. I do want to get into the cast real quick before we start getting into more of the story and more of my talking points that I really want to cover. So we have the Grabber, played by Ethan Hawke. Now, already said some of the movies he was in earlier. He's in the Sinister movies, The Purge. A lot of people know him from Training Day as well, that acted across Denzel Washington. Fantastic movie right there. Yeah, Ethan Hawke, dude, he's a goat. He's such a cool dad, like, actor guy. He's really awesome. And then we have Finney, who is our main protagonist. He's played by Mason Thames. Now, he's only really known for this, and I think he's had other smaller roles in some stuff, but this is kind of like the big one. So there's that. Then we have Gwen, who is played by Madeline McGraw. Now, I thought she was like related to like Tim McGraw or something. I don't know if she is. I didn't fully research, but for some reason that name, that's the first thing I thought of. But she actually does a lot of voice acting. She was in Cars 3, Toy Story 4, and she played young Hope, Hope Van Dyne, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, that terrible MCU movie, but she was in there. Nothing wrong with her. She's doing pretty all right for herself as a child actor. She's done like quite a number of voiceover gigs. Then you got the dad, Tarrant, who is played by Jeremy Davies. Now, I can't believe I didn't catch this, but after researching and then watching the movie again for the podcast, holy shit, I should have known this. He played Baldur in God of War 4. That is insane, and that is an incredible fucking game, dude. If you never played God of War, that was my first God of War I've ever played, okay? That game is rad, dude. Baldur is such a good villain. Everything going on there. he was such an interesting fella. I'll say that. He's just a very interesting fella. But Jeremy was also in Twister and Saving Private Ryan. And then we have Max. Now, a lot of people are going to be familiar with Max. He's known by many different movies, and he's also in this one weird movie my girlfriend was telling me about that something happens. I don't know. It's a little weird. But he's played by James Ranson. Now, he played older Eddie in It Chapter 2. Incredible casting. Him and that kid, they looked great. Maybe one day I will cover like It. It Chapter 2 was pretty good, but it wasn't as good as the first one. First one's just fucking great, dude. It's so sick. Like, it's an awesome movie. Incredible watch, coming of age movie, and has some very good scares and shit like that. Great movie that honestly nobody really talks about anymore. It just kind of died out. But he was also in Sinister 1 and 2 as well, acting with Ethan Hawke, so it's cool to see them two again. In Sinister, he was actually a cop and then a former cop in the second one. So really cool that they have this kind of thing, that they all kind of work together all over again. That's really sick. I kind of like when I see that, because you trust the people that are going to like do this job right, and then they get to come back. That's how the movie industry works, man. Okay, I did go to film school. I got taught like a little bit of like ins and outs. Yes, it really does matter like how good you are at something. That is true. But you have to be reliable. And if you're reliable, people know your name. If they know your name, it's all about who you know. Because I'm going to call somebody, I know this dude's going to show up. He's going to do his fucking job. And, or if not, he's really talented at this. Like, he knows exactly what to do. Yeah, a lot of times it depends on who you know and who's going to follow through, who's going to do the job. And the moment you really start slacking up, or you mess up somebody's recommendation or anything like that, it may, your word is your bond in Hollywood, pretty much. Is like, you say you're going to be there, you're going to be there, you're going to do your job, and who's going to follow through, or who can take you to the next step. So it's all about what you're capable of doing and your reputation. You got to have a good reputation. And then last but not least, we had one of my favorite characters, Robin. So he is another victim in this movie and a friend of Finney. He is played by Miguel Mora. I probably can't say that right because I don't roll my R's or anything like that. But yes, this kid did such a great job, man. I loved his character. I loved their friendship. They had a good thing going. And it's sad how things turned out. But you know what? He's still the GOAT. All right, we start off this movie at a baseball game. This is where we first are introduced to, well, two things. One, our main protagonist and the first victim that we're going to see on screen. All right, there's a baseball game. Our protagonist is the pitcher, and then our first victim that we see on screen is Bruce. He is on the opposite team. He's about to hit a home run. And the cool thing you got going on here is they don't make a lot of the kids assholes, especially like in the sports scene, because you always get that stereotypical, they just hate each other because they're on opposite teams. But after being struck out twice, and then on the third one, actually hitting a home run, Bruce tells him like, hey, you almost had me, man. Like your arm is mint. Like, that was cool. Like, he gave him a compliment. That was cool. And then they do the whole good game, and everybody goes on and so forth. Everybody loves Bruce. I guess he's a big name. He's a big popular name in this little town. And so, after that, he's riding his bike. He's cool, riding it down the street, all fucking smiles and shit. It's really nice. Like, just kids being carefree after school. We're just seeing him just go down the street, and then we have this shot of him from behind, and then coming into the frame a little bit in front of him, you just see this out of focus black van, and then we fade to black. Each time the grabber does appear, it comes up like that. We see a little bit more each time that he is presented to us, that he's abducting another child. That gets the town talking, and Gwen she's very real about it. Like, oh, they'll probably find him, but maybe not the way that they want, which is really dark for like these children to be talking about. But it's a sad world, we live in, like 1978. I want to say this is when they still had like the missing signs on milk cartons. And I know this might sound a little bit morbid, but I always liked that. I don't know why. Just the images on the milk carton thing, like, I don't know why. I love that in movies and shit like that. I think it's in a fucked up way. I think it's cool. Like I don't know. For some reason, I like that. I've always wanted to get a tattoo of like, I don't know, of like myself. That might sound like weird, but I don't really want to include anyone else. But I've thought about getting like a tattoo of like a milk carton, with the missing sign on the back, and I don't know, having a picture of like my younger self or something. Like I don't know. I just I like it. I thought about incorporating it in my story, so I try to set it that far back in time so it could just realistically be in that story. I'm getting off topic, but we do see a lot of abuse in this movie, man. It's like you got child on child, then you got parental abuse. You can already tell from the beginning that they do have an abusive parent, but I kind of want to give Terrence a little bit of leeway here, okay? And don't hate me for saying this, but I gotta say this. So whenever Finney and Gwen are getting ready for school, their dad, he's probably hungover, has a newspaper trying to read, and then you got Finney. He's having some cereal. Nothing wrong with that. That's cool. But he is just slurping every. I'm not even gonna mimic the noise because I will hate myself the moment I'm editing this and I hear that shit in my headphones. So I'm not gonna do that to you guys. But he's just slurping every single bite that he takes. And boy, do I want to punch that child. I want to drop kick him in the chest. I cannot stand hearing people eat, dude. I will fight. That for some reason, that makes me the most feral and want to kick an ankle so bad. Like I can't explain it, but I hate it. I know there's a word for it. I can't stand hearing people drinking or eating. I get like almost in an uncontrollable rage. It's so like I get so mad and I can't help it, but I can't stand it. So I don't blame him for kind of getting on to him for that. But then Gwen, unfortunately, she's opening up the little bread box thing and the door opens and hits the counter, makes a bit of a noise, and she immediately just like, oh, and looks at her dad. And she just says sorry. Like she already apologized. That's a bit much. That's ridiculous, bro. Like, come on. People make loud noises all the time by accident. It's whatever, It's a kid. But Terrence is still a piece of shit at the end of the day, but he has some work to do because we do see him like physically abuse his kids. And that's because, and we're gonna get into this, Gwen is what's the I don't even really know the word for it. She's clairvoyant. She's a little clairvoyant, and that's kind of what's going on here. That's more the supernatural aspect I was telling you guys about. So she starts to have these dreams, and she gets brought to the principal's office whenever the cops are trying to investigate what's going on. And supposedly she said something to one of the victims' sisters or somebody that knows, and it's a detail they never released to the public. So whenever this person was abducted, they found, popped black balloons like in the area. That was something that clicked in their head, like, okay, how do you know that? And Gwen just goes on the offensive and just starts mad dogging these cops. Like, oh, you guys think I'm the grabber? Or like, oh yeah, you guys are fucking like fart knockers and shit like that. She just talks so much shit. It's great. Gwen is so good, dude. She's a little badass, and I love it. So when that happens, and then she tells him, okay, after she comes down, because she gets defensive, because I mean, why wouldn't you? But she gets a little defensive, and then she finally lets her guard down, like, okay, sometimes my dreams just come true. But of course, that's still a little weird on how she would know that. So naturally, the cops want to investigate a little further. What would they do? They would go to the parent, because of course you're probably going to think, well, she knows something. Who knows? Maybe the dad is the grabber. And so they go to the dad's job, which we don't see any of this, but they go to his job. They question him about what's going on. That embarrasses the dad because he's like, why are cops coming to my job? Finney wakes up because he fell asleep in front of the TV watching old horror movies. He falls asleep, and in the morning he's woken up by just screaming and hearing their dad just beat Gwen with this belt. A typical drunk abusive dad saying, why were the cops there? They're talking about the dreams. He already knows about her dreams, saying they're not real. You're not your mother. And then that's when we're starting to figure out, okay, this was something that was happening to the mom. The mom was able to hear some things, or have dreams, and he just continues to go at her. She does a bomb ass move I don't think most kids would do, but she grabs like the bottle of alcohol that's there and is threatening to like drop it. And then of course he says, "You drop it, I'm gonna beat you 10 times like worse." And she fucking owned up to it, man. She dropped that shit, and then he fucking beats the shit out of her. And all in front of Finney, and there's nothing he can do. And it's unfortunate to like witness something like that. But it's so fucked up, dude. I gotta say this. Yes, should kids be disciplined? 100%. It does have to happen because sometimes attitudes need a little bit of correcting. That's just how it is, okay? Kids growing up, they don't know how to manage all these things. And I used to be a kid, obviously. You used to be a kid at one point. You listening to this right now, and you probably thought you knew everything. Your emotions were in check. Or one, you never even thought twice that your emotions were out of check. You're just like, I'm a person. I'm going to react how I want. No emotional intelligence, no wisdom or anything. And you're going to react however the hell you want to react. And sometimes that just needs to get you just need to, okay? But beating your child, no, that should never be a thing. I would never want to see anybody beat their child. That's not called for, okay? They're not a punching bag. They're not somebody you can control or anything like that. Some people aren't fucking meant to be parents, and that's just how it is. Just because you have a kid, it doesn't make you a parent. It doesn't make you a father, a mother. No, some people earn their places like that. And if that's something you do, and especially anytime somebody tries to bring up, oh, well, I brought you into this world. I house you, I clothe you, I feed you. No fucking shit. No, duh, dude. You're supposed to do that. I didn't ask to be here. The fuck? I didn't try to win the race. That shit just happened and then a fucking poof. Now I'm here. Nobody asked for that. That is your job at the end of the day. You are supposed to provide for me, keep me straight, lead me in life, and then I'm supposed to do better than you the next time around. I'm supposed to do things different. That's how it's supposed to be. And unfortunately, with abuse like that, it's a fucking cycle. It makes it worse. And the cycle can go like a couple different ways, okay? If you're being physically abused, some people continue that cycle. They go on to keep being bullies or be more abusive towards whether it be their significant others, random people, or like I said, continuing it, their kids, anything like that. Or you got some people who just swear off being confrontational in general because they're just scarred. And that's not something they do. And Finney and Gwen are like that. Gwen can be confrontational, but it's mainly when she's defending herself. She has the right path. Okay? Because there's three. You're not confrontational, you're not gonna fight. You got the people who will if they have to. That's it. That's not their go-to. And then you have the people on the far end of the spectrum that would just fucking like they're a loose cannon. They're a short fuse. They're gonna go and fight anybody, argue with anybody, anything like that right off the bat. It doesn't even matter if it was a big deal or not. They're just gonna go at it. That's not how it should be. Not at all. That's something we have to work on. And our protagonists and this whole movie is all about just abuse and the cycle of it. And then once he's done beating her and making her say, "Oh, my dreams are just dreams," that whole scene, Gwen, dude, it makes your heart ache, okay? The way she cries and screams and just like secedes to his will and what he wants her to say. It's so sad. And then she has to do like the walk of shame to go and just watch TV as if like that didn't happen. And then Finney is just there witnessing all of it, powerless, not able to do anything to protect his sister. And then his dad saying, "Hey, the same goes for you. Go." And yeah, so they go sit by the TV, and then she just curls up to him, trying to fucking deal with everything that just happened to them. And we see this is something like she gets abused at home. Finney, not so much, or at least not that we see, but of course it happens. But we do see Finney just gets bullied by like these three douchebags. And anybody, if you have a bully for a kid, bro, you gotta correct that. But unfortunately, it's part of the cycle. They probably have shitty parents that aren't doing a good job of loving their kid or anything. They're treating them like shit. And then those kids are treating other kids like shit. It fucking sucks, dude. I can say that as somebody who used to get bullied a lot as a kid because, and I'm still small. All right. I'm still the tallest 5'6" guy you've ever seen. I was even shorter in other schools. Like, I feel like I stopped growing at, I don't know what, I don't know, maybe fucking freshman year. I probably stopped growing. And all that time, I was still like a very scrawny, small kid. Like, you could fucking pick me up and throw me. The wind could fucking pick me up and throw me. So I used to get bullied by like jocks and shit all the time. Fucking hated jocks, dude. It sucks. I literally got like choked out once by one of them. Told the teacher right after it happened, like seconds after it happened, nothing. And of course, quarterback of the fucking football team, nothing fucking happened to him. So it's fucking bullshit. But God forbid me for like cursing at him or something, and cursing at the teachers for like, why aren't you trying to fucking help me and shit like that. I've been bullied so many times, so I don't react well to being manhandled. Am I gonna go out of my way and fight somebody? Fuck no. But I will, like, the moment I start getting touched around in weird ways, I will immediately like fucking kick into like, all right, I may lose, but I'm gonna fucking throw a punch or a kick or something, like, it doesn't matter. That's what goes on here. He's starting to get bullied by somebody. And Robin, I didn't even say how we got introduced to Robin. So we see Robin, and this also goes into a bit of we get a hint of the psyche of Finney. So Gwen and Finney walking to school, and then there's this fight going on. One bully is just picking on this other kid. Our kid is Robin, all right? And he starts calling him like a beaner and all this other stuff. Of course, I've been called that and shit. And yes, for anybody listening, I know I got white powder on and I'm white passing. I am Mexican, okay? Let's clarify that. These beans down here are a little tan, all right? We'll go with that. I'll just say that right there. But yes, he sees that going down. And even though he knows that kid is a huge bully, Robin is beating the bloody shit out of him. Like, just hammering into this dude. Gwen is all for like, oh yeah, you should be happy, like this guy like broke your arm or something, like, he bullied you. And he's like, yeah, I know, but he doesn't matter. And thing is, he tries to leave the fight here and there, but Gwen wants to stick around and watch. He doesn't like confrontation. He doesn't believe other people should be hurt. So he is on that far end of the spectrum of not wanting to fight. And even Robin brings this up later. Whenever Finney is being chased by some bullies, he runs and hides into the bathroom. And then the three kids come in looking for him. And then in comes in Robin. Fucking badass. His knuckles are still bleeding because he was just popping the kid in the mouth. So he has some cuts here. It's still bleeding throughout class. And so he goes in there washing his hands like nothing. Everybody's quiet. He's cleaning the blood. Then he starts talking to Finney. Like, Finney, how's it going? And Finney's like, yo, I mean, just keeping on. Like, just here. Finney doesn't even ask for help or say anything. But Robin, he puts two and two together. He knows what's going on. He's not dumb. He starts talking about his knuckles bleeding and the fucking ass beating that he just gave this kid earlier. And then the other kids start to go after they're hearing the details because they know they can't fuck with him. And then he just says, wait. He's like, fuck with Finney again and I fuck with you. Fucking bomb ass line, dude, from a really dope kid. I was clapping, I was cheering. There was other people going like fucking woohooing and shit like that. He deserved all the praise of everything going on right there. And then him and Finney are actually friends because he asks him for help in math class, and then also tells Finney, hey, you need to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's really rad, man. Like they're just talking about that, like shooting the shit a little bit. So they're friends. But then eventually the very next person to turn around and get taken is our boy Robin. He's the next victim. That's super unfortunate. And then that's the one where we get the most visual of the grabber, because you actually see him get out of his van and all that. You get more of the van and more of his body walking towards Robin behind like this grocery store area. Really, really sad shit, man. I was sad to see him go. But after that, that's when all hell breaks loose. The bullies go after him. Incredible, like, kid fight scene. Doesn't happen too much. It was like brutal Gwen grabs a rock, smacks one of the kids. She gets kicked in the stomach, slammed on the ground, kicked in the face. That kid she hit with a rock, he's out of the fight. He's dazed. His shit is rocked. So he just sits up against like a fence and his shit's just leaking. And then she's out of the fight too, and she gets knocked in the same area. And they kind of just like sit by each other. They know they're out of the fight. And then, unfortunately, Finney's getting the shit beat out of him. But what I want to know is, and I'm not really trying to pick on anybody here, but I just want to say, one of them is Ginger. Why the fuck was that kid not being picked on? I'm just saying. I know gingers get picked on all the time. And I got a little bit of ginger in me, okay? I like a little sprinkle. I'm just saying, why weren't they picking on the ginger kid? Like, come on. I think realistically, in the world, that kid would get picked. I would pick on that kid. I'm just saying, if we're in a group, yo, the redhead is getting picked on. I'll probably fire some shots at the other one, but yo, my main one, like, you're my guy. Like you're my guy. I'm gonna take it out on. If I'm gonna talk shit, I'm going to you. I don't care. It makes sense to me, and I feel like back in the 70s, that still would have been a pretty prime target. I don't know. I could be wrong. If you're from the 70s and shit, who would have got picked on? Okay, another white kid, another white kid, another white kid, or the really white kid, the ginger one. So it's like, I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me. But we got one day where Finney is walking home from school. He's walking by himself because his sister on Friday, she goes and spends the night with one of her friends. So they split off. This time, Finney's walking by himself. This is where we see the grabber. He has his face painted. He actually looks like how I'm looking now. No mask though. We don't get the mask yet. But he comes out of nowhere, drops some eggs. And he's like, oh, God, won't you look at that? I just dropped some eggs. Damn, doesn't that suck? And Finney, just being a nice kid, oh, like, do you need help with that? Like, okay. And he's like, yeah. And then he goes on to tell him, yeah, I'm a magician and so on. And then Finney's like observing, like he knows a little weird. Then he sees in the van, oh, yeah, there's black balloons. And it's like, yo, because I think his sister definitely probably told him. So he's like, are those black balloons in there? And then the grabber just tells him, yo, yeah, take a look. So he opens the van and then just like wraps them around like Finney. And then once Finney's starting to like scream, he just sprays him with some stuff in the mouth. And I actually try to figure that out because I'm thinking he's going for the good old,
does this smell like chloroform?
Type of situation. I thought that's what he was going to do, but he doesn't. So instead, at least from what I could research online, is wasp spray. I don't know if anybody could explain that. I mean, I don't know how many of you out there have kidnapped people, but I mean, if you want to just out yourselves, I'm going to report you, but I also want to know, like, hey, why did he use wasp spray? Like, what does that do? You know what I mean? And it was actually funny. During that exact scene, for some reason, like my parents left to go to work, and then I even have a screenshot of this, so you guys don't think I'm bullshitting. My mom texted me and was like, white van outside in front of the house. Don't answer the door. What the fuck? And I screenshotted that immediately. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? That's so weird. Especially while I'm watching this movie and then I'm just home alone. It couldn't have happened at like a weirder time. And oddly enough, I just told my girlfriend about this story as well. I think I was almost abducted my last time walking home from work because I work about like 5 minutes away, but it's like a 30-minute walk. So I was walking home from work, got my AirPods in. I'm in my neighborhood. And it's a pretty safe neighborhood, no problem. But I'm walking down, I'm listening to some music, jamming out, and I'm about to cross like a street. So I'm looking around, checking my left and right like you're supposed to. And I see this white Cadillac is just super close to me, like oddly. And I'm on the sidewalk. They're just really close. And they're going creepingly slow. And normally it wouldn't be a problem. I'm like, all right, they're probably coming to a stop, or maybe they're trying to find a house. It could be Uber, DoorDash, anything like that. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. But I couldn't see shit into the car. It was so tinted in there. It was ridiculous. I was like, that was fucking weird. But then they creepily just hit a U-turn, like a very slow U-turn after I looked at them. And like I said, I couldn't see anything. And I was I was literally a couple feet away. Like, they were really close. So they hit a U-turn and they slowly still go out. And then I told my girlfriend about it. It's like, I think I was almost abducted because I have the frame of like a 14-year-old. And until like I turned and looked at them and then they saw I have piercings and a beard. So it's like, oh yeah, not that one. Like, that one has like too much going on. It's like, yeah, I'm a grown man. Could they still abduct me? Probably. I mean, I only weigh like maybe 125. You know, depending on who's in the car, statistically, they might still be able to fucking pick me up and take me. But I mean, hey, you're not gonna get much, bro. Like, I'm just gonna be real. Like, I ain't got a whole lot to my name. Just being honest, I'm not the perfect guy. Going back to the story, so yeah, Finney gets taken and he's in like this dungeon. Grabber tells him it's soundproof and everything, and there's a few encounters between them. Now there are differences in how the Grabber acts, and there's different types of masks that he wears. So just like this one, the one I got, it you know, it breaks into like multiple pieces. So the eyes are the same, but the mouths are different. There's 3 pieces. You got this one. You got the creepy smile one, which I think is the first one we see him as whenever he comes in and kind of introduces himself a little bit to, you know, look at Finney. And then we have one where it's a complete blank face. I have that one as well. It's in my room. I'm not going to go and grab it. That one. And then there's one with a frown. And it's a weirdly disappointing look. And he uses it sometimes. And the only time he wears it is when he's obstructing himself in shadow. And he asks Finney, you know, what is your name? You know, I'm thinking about letting you go. Nothing's going right. And he does say that a few times. Like, everything's messed up. Nothing's going like how it should. So things are going way differently for him this time after abducting Finney. So he just says, I'm thinking about letting you go, but I just want to know your name. He says, usually I find out everything I want to know and even more details that I like to know because after they're dead, they're put in the newspaper of all these details. So either way, I'll find out your name. Finney lies about his name. And then that's when he steps from the shadow and he's holding his food and he just slams all the food and stuff on the ground. And it's the disappointed look. It's because he knew he was gonna lie. And he got caught in a lie, so he was a naughty boy. And he tries to entrap him so many times to do stuff. Every now and then, he'll leave the door open. He'll act like he closes it all the way. But then that's when we start getting phone calls. We get multiple phone calls in this movie, and the phone calls are very important. Throughout each call, you get a little bit more information. There's this old black phone on the wall, but it's not plugged into a power source. And Finney's looking at it. And even the Grabber, and there's like this theory as well. And this is also what I started to pick up on. It's like, why didn't I notice this the first time round? The Grabber tells him, yeah, I feel like I hear it ring sometimes, but I think it's just static electricity or something. But I just like ignore it. Like, it's no big deal. Like, it doesn't work and nobody can hear you down here. But Finney actually does hear the phone go off and starts getting these different calls from different victims. And he's finding out little by little who they are. A lot of times they don't remember their names because they said that's the first thing you lose, you know, when you die. So they're giving him like hints and clues of things they've tried and other ways to possibly get out, or tell him the patterns that the Grabber likes to do. And they even say, yeah, the Grabber doesn't believe what's going on. And this is the theory, is that the Grabber is also clairvoyant. And just like how the mom was, well, let me go into the fact that the mom of Gwen and Finney, she killed herself. We don't fully know the whole story. The dad just says she used to hear stuff and say her dreams were true, and they told her to do awful things, and it led to her eventually killing herself. We don't know how true that is, but I don't know. Gwen, all she does is have dreams. Finney, we had no indication he was having anything until he was put in this room where people have died, and he's starting to get these phone calls and starting to talk to the victims. And that's where we get these little details. And there's the theory itself that the Grabber is clairvoyant, or at least he was at some point. And he was also abused by his father and kind of just like pushed it down. And that's why he just ignores it. And it's like, oh, that's not real. So he doesn't hear the phone calls. And that's also the reason why none of the other kids knew what was going on, because they even said, oh, the phone was always ringing, but nobody could ever hear it. Finney could, and now he's getting all the details he can. So he's talking to victims little by little. And the sister's also, praying in some very vulgar ways for like God to show her the way, give her more dreams so she can help identify where Finney is so they can find him. So little by little, she's piecing everything together. But the grabber, like, let me read this thing that I found on Reddit that I think really goes into everything. Some of this may repeat what I just said, but I think this nails it perfectly. So this person on Reddit said, Finn's sister has dreams that can reveal her things, and Terrence said her mother saw things and heard things. So it's clear there is some sensitivity running in the family. Paranormal powers, whatever you want to call it. Then later in the movie, one of the ghost kids says the grabber can hear the phone too, but he doesn't want to believe it. The grabber himself says he's heard the phone before, but says it's just static electricity. He's in denial. The black phone is a way for the ghosts to communicate with Finn, but only people with the powers can hear the ghosts and the ringing itself. So I believe the grabber is just like Finn and his sister. He can see things and he can hear things, mostly ghosts. Gwen is beaten up by her father because she keeps saying her dreams are real. We find out he wants her to stop believing in the paranormal powers because her mother believed in them and she ended up taking her own life. I believe the grabber was abused by his father as well because of his powers. He became traumatized and started to deny them. He kidnaps boys and plays the naughty boy game because that's what his father did to him. He wants to release all that pent-up rage and resentment he has towards his father upon his victims. That's his origin story. Now his mask, I feel like there's something more going on there. Because of the way he reacted when Finn pulled it off, all I can think right now is that the mask represents his father's expressions when he puts on the mask. He feels empowered. He feels like he has become his father. But when Finn forcefully removed the mask, maybe the grabber felt like a kid again, a scared little boy about to get beaten by his father, or maybe not. I think that perfectly sums it up. There's only a few expressions. You got the weird smile, so that could indicate just a sadistic smile, which clearly what it is. And then you have the clear one that's just no mouth at all. So it's stonewalling. So maybe that's just the father just being closed off, being silent, not engaging with his child outside of the abuse. And then you have the frowny face itself, the disappointment of having a son that has these problems, that is causing you these problems, just being disappointed in that person. So I think that's what all of those masks represent, and that's what he has. And then of course you got the devil horns because it's just evil. That's all it is. But eventually Finney does start to take all the lessons that these people are telling him, these different things of setting up like a booby trap so that way he can have a way to fight back or something. And all of this is going on, and it's all weird and different this time because the grabber's brother, he got laid off or fired or something. So his brother is staying with him for a little while, and it's messing things up. And his brother is a fucking cokehead trying to figure it out. His brother is Max, the one that we were talking about earlier. Max is trying to figure out everything because he has nothing better to do with his time. So he's just snorting coke and saying, hey, like he even tells the cops when the cops are going door to door asking if they've seen this kid. He tries to tell them, look, there's a map of this. He's in this general area. This is something that's like he has to be somewhere close, going in all that. And the cops are like, yeah. Just call us if you think you have anything. So yeah, cool. Because of his brother being around, he can't do everything that he wants to do. So that's why things are different this time. And now Finney is getting all these calls and he's able to piece by piece, find ways to get out of something. And he does eventually escape the house one time by following the directions of one of the kids. He gets out, but the grabber chases him down and holds a knife to him like in the middle of a yard. And people are turning on their lights, but nobody comes outside. Nobody comes to check. That's pretty fucked up that nobody goes outside to check, but I completely understand. And so that sucks. But because of all that going on, the grabber is having such a hard time to find a way to do things. And that's also because Finney's not playing the game. He doesn't go up the stairs. I believe the 2 times that he tries to lure him up there, he doesn't at all. The one time Finney does go up there, that activates the game, because even the kids tell him, you're not playing the game. If you don't play the game, you can't win. So that means the grabber operates by a little bit of a code. He leaves ways for the kids to, quote, misbehave, so that way he feels the right to punish them. So he's not just trying to punish them for no reason. And when Finney finally escapes and then gets caught and put back, that starts the process. Oh, well, now I can punish you because you've been a naughty boy. And that's where he gets the last call. We all knew it was coming. The very last call is Robin. And Robin tells him, yo, you got to kill this guy for me. You got to defend yourself, because I told you earlier in the bathroom, one day you're going to have to defend yourself. And now Finney is to that point. He goes from the very far left of the spectrum to the middle of the spectrum to, hey, you got to fight when you need to fight. You need to protect yourself. Like, that's what you got to do. Now you're at that point. And so whenever the grabber finally comes back to kind of get rid of Finney, but actually when he's about to go kill Finney, this is where we come across Max. Max finally pieces it together because he's staring at his map. It's like all of these things, like it's in this location, so it's very focused in this spot. And then Max starts to really figure out, wait, the house I'm at is at the center of this location. And so Max goes snooping around, and then that's when he finds Finney. He's like, no fucking way. Like, I knew he was hiding something, but I had no idea it was this. And he's still like completely blown away that all this has happened. And then that's when we turn on get the grabber. He just gets an axe, kills Max. Not trying to rhyme. Bars though, pretty sick. And yeah, he kills his own brother. And he hates that, but he doesn't really feel too much remorse about it. I mean, he kills kids, so I don't think you feel that bad. But that's another thing I want to get into. Killing kids, we're oddly getting more comfortable with that in horror movies, but of course we're not being so graphic, but it's really getting there. Like most recent one, Terrifier, you saw a spoiler for this, by the way. If you guys haven't seen Terrifier 3, you might want to skip ahead by like a minute. You see him like bomb kids and dismember kids. You don't see him dismember the kid, like you don't see it on screen, but you hear it and you see the aftermath. And then this one, you got to see some pretty gruesome deaths, but a pretty gnarly one, oddly enough, with another like baseball player and somebody wearing a top hat, is Dr. Sleep, where like the kind of vampire-ish people come across this kid and they just start feeding on him. And God, it was a pretty intense thing. And Dr. Sleep is a fantastic movie. That's a movie I'm going to cover one day. I'll do that back to back with The Shining or something, because love that movie, and that movie was a great sequel. But yeah, we're getting better with that. But Finney is able to like entrap him down there by doing some stuff, breaking his ankle after making him fall into a hole that he dug. And this is where I think he chokes him out, because he actually uses the phone cord and he actually just like yanks, and you hear like a snap or something, and then he kind of goes limp. So I'm assuming he snapped the grabber's neck and that's like it. But I mean, I don't know. We're getting a sequel. Maybe they'll explain it, but it might be a prequel. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually try to go the prequel route, but I'm not entirely sure. It is an interesting ride. I know there could be more to be desired in the movie. Don't get me wrong. And I know some people might not like the paranormal aspect of it because of how grounded everything else is. But even then, you could just say it's just kids being kids, and some people just get abused for it. And that's what happens. And then that cycle continues. And that's what happened with the grabber. He just decided to continue that cycle. But even the dad comes around, because Gwen actually does start to help, the police, and Gwen's dad actually starts to, like, okay, I'll listen to you about your dreams and stuff. He kind of comes around a little bit. And of course, they're all like a happy family at the end, but kind of hard to like feel that happiness, because like, hey, you've been a piece of shit, we kind of got to own up to this and stuff. And I hate that. And I won't go into too much details, but I have known somebody who's been abused like by their parent, or not by their parent, but by a step parent. And it's fucking unfortunate, but they turned out to be like a very sweet person. They don't do any of that abusive stuff. They stopped the cycle, and they really did. And I'm proud of them and everything. But at the end of their stepdad's life, he wanted forgiveness. Like on his deathbed, that's what he wanted. He was seeking forgiveness. And honestly, I would say fuck no. Not at all. Up until that moment, you didn't give a shit at all. And that's not okay. They always want to ask forgiveness when it's too late and when it benefits them, when they want to get that off their chest. But they didn't bother to either check in, listen, or anything about the trauma that they just dumped on this person. It's really fucked up, but no, you don't deserve forgiveness. And what I say, and I do believe people can change. I really do. But you had to put in the work, but you can't just wait until you're on your deathbed and be like, hey, I want to get some forgiveness before like I go. Not sorry. That's not how that works, bro. Like that's just plain and simple. That's not how it is. And you're completely okay, and you are under no obligation to forgive your abusers. For yourself and your own sanity, you can do whatever you may want, but don't ever think that's something you have to do at all, whether it be domestic violence or well, I think domestic violence covers like parents abusing kids, but any type of violence from another person that you may care about or supposedly have some sort of relationship with should not be a thing. Never falter under any of that shit. I'm just saying. But all right, I'm out of time. I think I talked about this enough. I hope you enjoyed the episode and my little rantings about these types of things. A little bit of heavy subject matter. I know I can't make it too entertaining or funny or lighthearted or anything, but I hope you guys enjoy. Look out for the next episode. It will be Hellraiser. But before we go, I do got to give you guys your cookies fortune, man. And here we go. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. Do with that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. But until next time, be excellent, be kind, subscribe to the podcast.